Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's Top Business Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, President, Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training Japan. My special guest today is an old friend of mine, Matt Nicholls, who is the co-founder and president of Cornerstone here in Japan. Matt, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Delighted to finally get on the podcast.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen each other for a while, COVID and all that sort of thing. We bumped into each other the other day, so we said, let's get together and do the interview. So, Matt, you've been in Japan a number of years now, but just give us a bit of the backstory and how you got to become the co-founder and president of Cornerstone.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, came to Japan 10 years ago, basically. And actually, I guess winding back a little bit, I had my own recruitment business in England, which I sold and didn't work for a couple of years, which was lovely. But actually, back in the day, I was an English teacher in Japan, and I was kind of sat at home twiddling my thumbs and thinking, "Where's the next chapter of the career?" And I thought, well, maybe I could do recruitment in Japan. And I didn't even realize that the market here didn't really require Japanese language ability. So yeah, I came to Japan, joined one of the big kind of British firms as a director. Was then managing director of one of the biggest Japanese firms, recruitment firms in Tokyo. And then, that gave us, myself and Alex, who we worked together in that firm, it gave us the opportunity to actually go out and try and find some investment to start our own business. And we, had a track record in Japan by that point. And yeah, we founded Cornerstone. We got very lucky. We have two major investors. One is a major investment bank. The other is a big kind of Asia Pacific recruitment business. And it kind of gives us the perfect storm, because we have the money from obviously a really reliable source. We have the infrastructure of being part of a larger group, but we own the business and we get to run it how we want to run it, which, as you know very well, is
absolutely
is
how
appealing.
We like it. How we like it. So when you first came to Japan, you're working as a director in that first big British firm.
Yeah.
I guess at that time you had a team. Yeah. And I suppose it probably wasn't that different for you maybe from when you're in England, because I guess the nature of the English language focused recruitment companies is that the personnel tend to be very, very international.
Yeah.
But you would have had Japanese as well, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What were some things that, you noticed when you started leading a mixed team, and particularly a team with Japanese in it, that was maybe a little bit different from what you've been doing in England?
Do you know what? I mean, everything was different, actually, although... Yeah, the company was very international. I mean, the first thing I noticed was, as being a sales guy, right? I walked in the office, massive office, 300 people on the floor, and it was dead quiet. And, I remember thinking, what?
Oh, what's going on here?
What the hell's going on? It's basically a telesales job, recruitment. You're on the phone, should be. And I remember thinking, okay, I want to know who the best sales guy is. Who's the number one guy? Because there's salespeople, that's... we look to see who's the top dog, and they said, it's that guy over there, and it's a Japanese guy. And so I kept my eye on him. He's the quietest guy in the room. He's tapping away, and so that was a big shock. And I think actually, although international businesses are international to a certain degree, I think they still retain a lot of Japanese culture. In how they operate, right? So
what was that guy doing? How was Mr. Quiet guy in the corner tapping away, being the top dog? How did he manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not sure. I think he recruited in a very Japanese way, which was less confrontational, less salesy, very much email based.
Okay.
And he was a machine. He would work almost 24 hours a day, this guy. And I'm sure that if he'd adopted a slightly different style, he probably would have billed 50% more than what he actually did.
Maybe worked 50% less or something.
Probably worked 50% less, yeah. So it was pure, he was good, but obviously sheer hard work from him as well.
So what other things did you notice about, from a leadership point of view, that was sort of things that you maybe not have expected, or things you thought, oh, that's interesting, or that's different?
I mean, I think there's been several things. I think, a couple of even, I guess, kind of funny things where, I came from a very kind of aggressive sales background in England, where the sales floor would be, pretty macho, full of banter. Or like, you're an Aussie, you've experienced the same thing. Yeah. And
Boiler Room, the movie brought to England,
That's it, right? And I remember very clearly, actually, the first week, they had an incentive where if you did really well, you would get money to buy a new suit or something like that. So one of the guys a Japanese guy who was in one of my teams, came in, and he was wearing this suit. You wouldn't believe it. Probably you would know Rupert Bear.
Yes,
Right, a bit like that. This kind of yellow checked suit.
Yes.
And I was thinking,
quite out there.
Totally out there. And I was thinking, okay, I'm a director, so I can't wade in straight away. I've got to hang back. But I'm sure he's gonna get ruined. The banter's gonna be brutal. And I saw him walking across the office, and I was kind of rubbing my hands. Oh, this is going to be great. This guy's going to get it. He's never going to wear that suit again. And he came to the desk, and everyone said, "Love the suit. Great suit. Well done. Fantastic. You look fantastic." And I was sat there thinking, "Wow, okay, this is a different environment to what I'm used to." So there's things like that, but also, I think specifically when I work for, a bigger Japanese company, I think on a more serious note, I think what I found as a managing director running that business, I mean, there was a steep learning curve with regards to, especially Japanese back office staff. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of those companies, maybe front office, maybe more mixed in recruitment, back office is typically 100% Japanese due to the nature of the work.
And they're a different type of people, aren't they, to the salespeople? I'm a
Very
sales
different.
guy, and when I first had back office people to deal with, it was quite shocking. It was like, man, how do you do this every day? This seems like really boring content to me. I couldn't stand this, but you love it. How is that possible? Yeah, quite different.
Well, I think there's two lessons. I mean, I was the same as you. The first thing as a sales guy leading a business you have to learn is to respect and understand the work that the back office team does, and understand how vital it is to the running of the business, and actually how vital it is to the generation of sales as well. So I think that's step one, and once you can get that kind of appreciation, you become a better leader. But I think specifically in Japan, then step two, you have some other challenges to deal with, and it took me a long while to get to grips with this idea of the kind of back office power that often exists within Japanese companies.
What are you talking about there?
So I remember, I would, just to give you a bit of backstory, so when I was managing director, I took over a business it was 20 people, part of this huge Japanese brand, small business, been established for 6 years.
I remember I visited you in your old offices before you went to the big office, right?
That's right.
It was about 20 people.
About 20 people. It had a couple of MDs. It'd been established for 6 years. And when I left 4 years later, it was 230 people, $50 million, like a massive transformation and big growth. And I think in most companies that, if you come in as a leader, you maybe at first with the change that you want to generate, then there's going to be some pushback before people trust you and realize you're making the right decisions and that kind of thing. But you would think maybe 1 or 2 years in, when, okay, now we're 100 people and we're really profitable, then you would have earned the respect, right?
Shown my capabilities.
Shown what you can do. Yeah. But I found that really didn't come as easily, certainly with the Japanese back office staff, who really align themselves to the bigger Japanese brand, rather than the individual that led the business. Right. So,
so they saw you as a temporary occupant of that seat. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and the achievements and the scaling of the business was kind of by the by, almost in their eyes. So I would find myself, and this was a real challenge for me, where I would say, okay, guys, we're going to do this. This is the plan. And everyone would sit there nodding. Sure. So I'd walk out of those early meetings thinking great. Done.
Yeah, good.
Job done.
Get on with it.
Everybody's clear. Yep. This is now going to be executed exactly how I want it to be executed. And then, you would start checking a little bit and realize that nothing's
being done.
Nothing had been done.
Nothing's changed.
Zero. And then, you'd have a nice follow-up meeting. Hey, I thought we'd agreed. Are you guys okay with this? And you start to check, do you have any concerns? Is there any reason why? And people would be like, no, I think it's fine.
It's fine. We're just not going to do it.
And then, so I'd leave it. Still didn't get done. And then you would, I'd have a more aggressive meeting, and where I wouldn't leave until I got to the bottom of what was happening. And even then, and then it would come out that, well, maybe we don't think this is a good idea. And the reason is that, it's the group policy, we think, or it's illegal in some mind. It never was illegal. Don't worry, we're fully compliant at all times, but just in their minds, you know. And there was some serious pushback. And then I would basically force them to do it. But actually, do you know what? I thought, okay, well, this is just how it is. I'm just going to have to be super aggressive.
Have to drive
I'm
hard,
going to have to
and
get
push
in,
hard, and
stand over the shoulder,
steamroll everyone here.
steamroller everybody, get it done. And it did get done. But then you realize actually later there's kind of a lingering resentment that builds up from that. And that grows and grows every time you steamroll out, every time you do it.
Yeah, they don't forget.
Do not forget. And, that will come back and bite you at some point. And people will leave or, it will manifest in other ways in the business. So that was my greatest challenge, I think, in that particular role. And it took me probably 3 years to get to grips with. I was only there 4 years, so it took me 3/4 of the time. And maybe at the end, I'd kind of got to grips with, okay, there's actually a really different approach that is required here.
If you look back now, would you have taken a different approach knowing what you know now? How would you have approached it with hindsight as your help here?
Do you know what? I have thought about this, and I think I'm kind of in two minds because you think about the rapid growth of the business, and maybe it did require
30 people to what? 230. 30. It's not bad.
Yeah.
In just 3 years. 2 or 3 years.
4 years. Yeah, 4 years.
4 years, okay.
But sometimes that kind of growth does require a bit of a steamroller approach at times, especially when you are working for this big Japanese giant brand and people are very entrenched and comfortable in the brand. But I think if I'd wanted to stay there for 10 years, then maybe you could have had a longer term approach, slightly more collaborative approach, I think.
And the parent company itself must have been deliriously happy with the results you're pulling in. I mean, going from 20 people to 230, $50 million a year, surely they're cutting you some slack there. I mean, are you getting the back office having sort of side conversations with the equivalent people in the headquarters saying this Matt Nicholls doesn't know what he's doing. He's destroying the business. He's killing off the clients.
He's a maverick.
He's a maverick. He's destroying everything. We get rid of him or we're going to be blown up. I mean, are you having that type of sort of ninja activity in the background going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually the opposite.
Was it?
Yeah. Okay. So because the business, it was a tiny business, so it's part of Recruit Holdings, that might say the company name. So Recruit's obviously a massive business.
Huge,
yeah, I mean,
this is like a rounding error.
It's nothing
for them.
It's nothing. So I mean, a 20-person business, who cares? So actually, to start with, I had total free rein because we did just unimportant, an unimportant business. And then when we really started to succeed and actually, put some serious numbers on the board and be a business which should be taken notice of. Actually, at that point, that's when the attention came.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why, we really wanted to set up our own business. Actually, I think is that, the mindset was because I think in the recruitment market in Japan there's two separate areas, right? You have the very domestic recruitment market, and you have the international recruitment market, which we operate in. And in the domestic recruitment market, for me, I wouldn't even really call it recruitment. I think it's more a very customer service centric business, not really a sales business.
An order taking business, maybe.
Order taking business.
I need somebody, send someone over.
The customer is king rather than you are consulting on a collaborative level. And, the international style, which is much more salesy, you're a consulting business. And so they left us alone. But when we, start pulling in, like I say, $50 million, and then it's okay, what's happening here? But the reaction was more a case of, how do we make this more like Japanese business?
Okay, how do we reintegrate them back into our system because they seem to be going off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was a worry. And of course, I think any leader running a Japanese business will find that sometimes the image and the compliance of the business, which is of course important in any business, but actually is the overriding thing. So they weren't really thinking, okay, this is $50 million. They're thinking, because Recruit had several scandals in their domestic businesses at the time. They were thinking, okay,
what if this blows up?
This is running a completely different style to what we used to. We have no control over it.
Yeah.
What if this completely blows up? Yeah.
So that raises an interesting point in terms of you're running an organization, part of a big Japanese group.
Yeah.
You're the sort of the virus in a way, aren't you? You're the international virus.
Yeah.
In this big domestic, gargantuan organization, and they're looking at you from a point of view of not added revenues, they're looking at added risk. They're saying, could these guys blow us up rather than, oh, this is fantastic. So I guess the negative side is the overriding concern rather than the positive side of the money, which you intuitively as a foreigner, you just wouldn't think like that. You think, oh, great, these keep going, do more.
These guys are killing
Let's give them some more dough. Let's push it harder,
Yeah.
As opposed to, whoa, we better reel these guys back in because obviously they're doing something wrong.
Clearly, yeah. Yeah, that's the underlying sentiment. And I think that ties in with what I was saying with regards to the back office staff, because they had an outlet to the head office,
right?
And so every time I wanted to do something, of course, in the background, they're checking, is he allowed to do this?
Right.
Can you give us some ammunition to
stop him
from doing this? And at first that was, well,
and this would be subterranean. If you're coming in from outside, okay, you work for the big British company, then you join this company. It's a 20-person group, small. So you couldn't have had that many back office staff anyway.
No,
and I'm presuming the back office staff would have come from headquarters.
Yep.
You wouldn't be recruiting them yourself. So
mainly,
they don't have any loyalty to you. They're transfers, right?
Yeah, a lot of them,
transfer from here to there. Where's our loyalty? The big group, not you.
Yes.
So that throws up a lot of question marks, doesn't it, in terms of as a leader, having your capacity to do what you want to do, thinking you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then having a group within the organization actually maybe white-handing you potentially, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, they're not really on your team.
No.
Yeah, and I guess it doesn't. It's not like on day one. Oh, I see. You're white-handing me. You're playing for the other team. You're not playing for my team. That's not apparent, is it?
It's not, and it takes a while to realize that, because I think it doesn't manifest itself in somebody, one of the board members from Recruit coming to your office and saying, hey, I've heard about this, we need to do this.
Yeah.
It manifests itself in, small changes and small, very Japanese style, I guess, small new rules that are implemented in the business, which, you might want to push back or not push back, but that would be the constant creeping of control that would result from that. So, yeah, it was very challenging from that perspective. And I think it really is led from that mindset of this is a risk.
Yeah.
So I remember we signed a retainer. For those of you, I'm sure most people know, but that's when the client is going to pay you up front.
Right.
Right. And there's a big startup company, a SoftBank funded startup company, and they gave us $2 million up front.
Mm-hmm. Go and get us a whole bunch of people.
Go and get us a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. We're starting up. We're serious. We've got SoftBank behind us. We've got tons of dough.
Yeah.
$2 million, small change for us.
Yeah.
Go.
$2 million. We thought it was Christmas.
Absolutely.
$2 million deal just up front. There you go. Yeah. Celebrating. So,
up front too, right? Cash in the bank.
Up front. Yeah. Here you go. And so I remember at that particular monthly catch-up, and the monthly catch-ups were fairly intense. A lot of them were at, Recruit head office, top floor of the building.
Big boardroom.
Massive boardroom.
You wearing a suit and tie?
Suit and tie, not like today. Little, UN-style mics, real-time translators for everybody, translating out serious stuff. Right? So I go there thinking, okay, just had a $2 million quid deal, but fantastic.
Everyone will be happy with me.
Everyone's going to be happy with me. So I go in there and we're like, okay, listen, the month's great anyway. We're killing it. And there's a little bit of sweetener. Probably signed the biggest ever retainer in the Tokyo market. Right. And of course, the reaction was absolute panic at that moment, because that meant a level of, can we deliver on this? What's the commitment? I know there's some reasonable questions, but the there was no happiness.
There was no high-fiving around the table. Hey, man,
there was no high-fiving. No, there's no.
We're going to pay you a huge bonus this year.
Yeah, exactly.
You're looking good.
Yeah. Let's take the afternoon off and go for some drinks.
Yeah. Let's hit the pub. Yeah.
None of that.
No.
So that was another eye opener. And I think, you got all these challenges. I think especially when you work in that kind of environment.
And often the thing for companies is that particularly in sales, there's from sales that the salespeople are actually working for the client, not for you, and they're holding everything back because they're working for the client, not for you. And so that you often have this conversation with multinational companies, negotiating companies about our sales team that actually we don't feel they're working for us, they're working for the other side. In your case, your back office is working for the other side in terms of the bigger partner, right?
Yeah,
that's a bit hard to navigate. So in terms of other things that came up, I mean, that's the back office, which is, again, they're transferees into the business. They're conservative. They don't align with you. But I'm guessing most of the salespeople you are hiring, they're not coming from Recruit. You're bringing them in directly. So their loyalty's got to be to you.
100%. Right? Yeah. So 100% of the sales
so you've got two
side.
completely different cultures there, right?
Totally different. And I think, we hired everybody. 100% of those 230 people were hired by us. And actually, it was a big part of my strategy for growing the business. I did every first interview. Yep. Everyone.
Why is that?
Because I think what I found is the structure that I took over it was very Japanese structure. So it had a lot of steps in it. And we could go through 7 interview steps. It'd get to me, and in 5 minutes, I'd be like, it's a definite no.
No.
It's a definite no. So there was one side of it is obviously the time conservation side of it. And the other side of it was that we didn't have a particularly good brand because we were 20 people.
Right.
And we're competing against established recruitment companies. So I'm I consider myself to be the main salesman of the company as well. So I think it was dual focused. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to pitch the vision of this business better than anybody else in the company. I'm going to be the guy that attracts, people like Alex, who's now my business partner, right? Who was one of the top guys at our competitors. And I think he would say he wouldn't have joined if he hadn't met me. Maybe he's just telling me that now. I don't know. But so that was it. It was dual focus. I think when you have those aggressive growth plans, I think hiring is the key to it. And I think you should take control of that. And so it worked really well.
I do the same. I do exactly the same. I don't like people filtering out team members for me because I know what I'm looking for.
Yep.
Maybe they are looking for something a bit different, or they don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And we had that when I was in the Shinsei Bank too. We had a HR process of hiring people, which I looked at. I don't know how you make a decision here that's relevant, and I had to change that completely. And again, I got involved much earlier. But what other things, in terms of, okay, your back office is a bit of an issue, so we'll just park that. But and also you think about, with Cornerstone here, you started from zero, so you hire everybody. There's no back office transferees. You're hiring the back office, you're outsourcing the back office, or whatever you're doing. So that's a different kettle of fish. But in terms of what have you found works well to get team members engaged? And we'll just park the back office as a sort of a renegade separate group because it's not really representative of what you're trying to do here. That's a very special circumstance. But just generally speaking, think about the team now and think about the teams previously in the other two organizations here. What things work well if you get them engaged?
I mean, I think a number of things. I think, we're a startup business. So I think it's really, culture is obviously key in any business. But I think when you're starting and you're growing a business, first 50 people in particular, I think is absolutely crucial. I think the culture is almost set once you have 50 people. And I think the first thing we try and build a business on is a foundation of fairness. So I think we find in most sales roles, the main reason why people leave, I think, is due to a perception that something isn't fair. So I think that's something we really, really try and create an environment where everybody thinks, okay, I've got a fair shot at this, right? Some of we don't do anything, I don't think, revolutionary, right? I think we really recognize success in every way that we can in the business. We have achievable kind of short-term promotion goals so that people can feel a sense of progression and that they're continually moving
succeeding
as the business is moving. I think it's a lot of I mean, all our commission is individual and that kind of thing, but we try and foster an environment where everybody buys into this idea that in order to succeed as an individual, then the best way to do that is to collaborate as a team.
Now, that's a good theory.
Yeah, right.
And one of the outstanding things about the current stage of the recruitment industry in Japan is how much relatively inexperienced young people get paid compared to other jobs in industry. I mean, I know because I try and hire them. When I tell them what we're going to pay, they just laugh at me like, are you nuts? Forget it. So you've got a very high earning potential in the business for a start, which has to be engaging, And yet, you know, how do you get where it's individually oriented to not have selfish, me behavior and think team? Because in a lot of cases, people will have a portion of everyone's revenues that they receive individually hived off and then split amongst the whole team. That's one way of having a little bit of skin in the game for everybody, that you get part of the highest performer and the lowest performer's income as well. Yours goes into the pool. That's one way people do it. Are you doing that, or are you just doing it from a motivational, theoretical point of view of the greater good, be a good citizen? How are you making that work?
Yeah, more the latter. So, I mean, the bonus is all completely individual and transparent, and you know, we don't hide what we pay people. I think we actually advertise it on our YouTube channel. So you're right. I mean, I think we pay commission quarterly. I think the highest commission we paid out to an individual last year was just over 20 million yen in a quarter. It's not bad for 3 months' work.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. So, Matt, you know, how do you get people to work for the greater good? You know, is it a pooling of the individual commissions that then get shared out, hived off and shared off, or is it all, you know, motivational appeal to people to be, you know, team player? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's more the latter. And I think just to give you some context, you know, we do pay some, I think, a life-changing commission. You know, I think the last, and we advertise it, we're very transparent about what we pay people. I think last year, the biggest commission check we paid an individual for 1 quarter was just over 20 million yen. It's a lot of money for 3 months, work.
Most people sitting here somewhere listening to this interview probably are not making 20 million yen in a year, let alone in a quarter. Yeah. So that's not bad.
Yeah, it's good, especially if you're in your 20s.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, okay, exactly. Yeah.
You know, so I think, so there is a challenge involved in that once you start, you know, maybe thinking, okay, I can earn this kind of money, then does that drive you to be the sneaky, selfish salesperson that is the lone wolf kind of character? And I think we've hired everybody from scratch, and I think one of the ways we can kind of mitigate that is to try to not hire that kind of person while still hiring people that are ambitious and all the rest of it. But we also tend to hire inexperienced people in the business. So I think you can develop a culture if you've grown up in that culture, which is very team focused and collaborative. And that's how you've been trained, and that's how it is in the business, especially if it's your first job, which it is for a lot of the people that we hire. You know, you get to year 2, year 3, and then you become a manager, and that's just the business and how you operate. So far it's worked. and I think people buy into it, and sorry, and it really does drive them, and we do have this culture where people congratulate each other, and they do compete, of course, for deals, but not in an underhand way. And I think
here's a question.
I think it's possible.
Here's a question, and it always comes up. You have a top performer who's not behaving properly.
Yeah.
And this is the dilemma. They could be a technical person, they're not a good team player, or they're a salesperson, but they're not a good team player.
Yeah.
And they start to impinge on the culture. They start to impinge on the esprit de corps of the group.
Yeah.
What do? Do you fire them or do you keep them? What do you do with someone like that?
I mean, obviously, it depends on how bad the behaviour is to a certain degree. It's always tempting, isn't it, to keep them, because especially when it's your own business and you're thinking, well, this is affecting, my bottom line, and so I get the temptation to try and tolerate that behaviour and let it go. But I think, we've reached a point where we don't do that anymore, and I think we have a more medium to long term vision of the business. And hey, if you're a 3-person business and you've got one guy that's absolutely killing it, and the whole business, depends on him,
well,
you're probably going to get
a few choices, right?
Yeah, you're going to cut him some slack.
Few choices.
Yeah, but I think as the business grows, then an individual top performer becomes less and less important, and I think that's reflected in how we would deal with that kind of person now. So probably when we first started the business, maybe, to be honest, we'd have been slightly more lenient with that behaviour. We didn't have it, but I'm sure we would. But now, not at all.
And also you got the opposite problem of that person is likely to be poached, hired out of the organisation by someone else who's saying, wow, we'd like to have that money over here, thank you.
Yeah.
And we've got a room full of killers here, so you can just add yourself to the killer list, and we don't worry about behaviour, we don't worry about culture, we worry about money.
Yeah.
Just get out there and kill people, make money, we're good.
Yeah.
Different culture, different organisation, so they've got a home there. So do you also have that sort of problem that you're getting people lifted out of the organisation as well when they start to really perform, or are you able to keep that under wraps so that others don't know?
Well, no, 100% we do. I mean, and we really advertise the success of our people. And I know some recruitment companies will never advertise who their top biller is, who's the top biller of the month, that kind of thing. But again, we have a different philosophy to that. And I think that if you're running a good business and you're incentivizing people properly, they're going to get hit up all the time by your competitors. And I think you have to look inwardly and think, it's wrong, actually. I think the wrong approach is to hide those guys away, because you're just kind of covering up maybe the problem. I think the issue should be just look inwardly, run the business in a way which people will be happy with and they're going to want to stay. And if people leave and you've done everything right and the environment's great, then I think you've just got to take it on the chin. And do
you ever take them back?
Yeah, I would do if someone left. I think on the right terms, and they were a good culture fit. Yeah, I'd take them back.
Because that sends a different message over them too. When people hear watch someone walk out the door, I'm sure some people are thinking, oh, I wonder what I'm worth.
Yeah.
I wonder, is the grass greener over there?
Yep.
And when they come back, it's like, maybe the grass is better here.
Sends a great message.
It does send a great message, doesn't it? When you actually hire someone back into the organisation who's left.
It does.
Big, I'm a hero. I'm out of here. Step out of my way. VIP coming through.
Yeah.
Come back with their tail between their legs a little bit. It's like, welcome back to the family.
The boomerang as we call it, Greg. Yeah, no, you're right. I think it sends a great message that the grass isn't necessarily greener. It does make me laugh. I mean, we do hire quite aggressively, and I do get, some people who run businesses for our competitors sometimes emailing me saying, hey, can you stop poaching our staff? And
they're asking you to stop poaching their staff.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And
is this a letter from their lawyer, or is this their personal email?
No, a personal, like, hey,
Matt,
can you back off? And but I always think, that we're in recruitment.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of our business. And fine for you to scout my guys, and if you can take them, good for you. But it works both ways.
Works both ways. Okay. And what about getting ideas? You've been in big organisations, or they became bigger anyway. The first one was probably pretty big, and then you built the second one up really big.
Yeah.
This is getting bigger all the time here too. you have yourself as the head of the organization or at the top of the tree, and you've got your ideas, you've got your experience, you've got your perspective, you've got your insights, but there's probably a lot of other insights out there as well, which often, as the leader, we don't get to hear about because we don't seek them or we're too busy, we don't know. What have you found works well to get good ideas generated from the people and capture those ideas? Do you have brainstorming sessions? Do you offsites? I mean, do you do creativity work? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm really bad at that because I think it's still a weakness for me in that, I'm one of those guys. I've got a set vision for how I want this to go, and I think I know the best way for this. Yeah,
it's called middle age.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, stubborn middle-aged man.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
So I do have that mindset, and I think it's something I need to work on. But I think, across the business, we do all those things. I think recruitment is still a simple business, though. So I think actually, for myself and Alex, the expertise we have and the experience we have, sometimes we adopt a few new ideas, which usually come from the management team, but usually we've got the path. I think where we actually need some help and where ideas can help a growing business is more on the cultural side.
Okay.
Because there's a big generation gap, as you just pointed out, between me and the people that we hire, a huge generation gap. So, and one of these companies, we like to do a lot of events. We like to make it a fun place to work. We want people to socialize, enjoy socializing together, so they're going to work better together. But maybe our idea of what's fun
evening
is
boring.
It's boring, absolutely boring to everyone in our business. So we do have one of the things we did recently. We set up a culture and events committee.
Okay.
Within the company, so made up by the staff. We asked who wanted to do it. Created a group of 5 people.
Volunteers, no money.
All volunteers.
No money included.
No extra cash for it, although they do get a budget for the events and that kind of thing. I mean, we have the traditional events, but we found they were getting a bit stale, and so that's actually been a fantastic idea, because every time we have any event, even a kickoff, we've got a kickoff this Friday, which we'll run the sales part, but the culture and events committee will run the fun part of the business. And we pretty much, within reason, we let them do what they want to do. And it's transformed those events, absolutely transformed it. And some of the ideas they have, the creativity is things we never would have thought of or considered. So
and so in terms of when you become the leader, you become very busy. You're on the bridge of the ship. You're trying to get the direction going here, make sure the engine room is working, what's going on. But you naturally gravitate away from the core day-to-day, hands-on.
Absolutely.
In the trenches, fighting part of the business. So you're not touching with the clients anymore at that level. So how do you use their coalface touch to re-engage yourself with what's going on in the business? Because it's very quickly you become out of touch. They're talking about clients, you don't even know the client. They're talking about a particular situation, you have no idea about that situation because you're not doing that anymore. How do you keep your hands on the business?
It's difficult. I mean, as a business grows, you're going to become more distant from that side of it. And I think it comes through having an excellent management team, firstly, who really represent the values of the business. But for me, and this is more in your area, but I still like to get heavily involved in the recruitment training side of the job. So I think that allows me to really stay in touch with the new starters in the business, the people who join the company. I get to play a significant part in that first 6 months of their journey, including going on sales meetings with them. Still want to do that, even if I don't know the client.
You're not taking over the meeting, are you? Or are they
running
the meeting?
Are
you turning up to listen to them and just jumping in there and just taking over the whole thing?
I'm very restrained in those meetings. Oh, obviously, if the situation requires, then I'll get involved. But and I think just actually.
But in that sense, doesn't the client want to talk to you? I mean, if you come up, here's my card, says President. Here's Blogs, my employee, and then they're looking at you, not even looking at them. I mean, gets a bit difficult, right?
That's why you spot meetings, not every meeting, obviously, just here and there. I think And I think also just how we structure the business. I think if you sat in an office and you've got a PA, you're struggling to remember the names of the people who work for you because you're 100, 200 people, that's a little bit different. So I think both myself and Alex, we sit with teams on the floor in the middle of the office, and just doing that, I think you can absorb what's going on around you. You can listen to the calls, and I'm not the kind of person now where I'll hear a bad sales call and I'll start picking that person up immediately. I'll go through the right channels. And
you're not like Grant Cardone, right?
No.
You watch those videos in the bullpen there?
Yeah, I'll have
he'll take over the call
and
crush the guy. Right?
We're not at that stage.
Okay.
But yeah, I think just actually being on the sales floor, involved every day, I think just listening is a good way to stay in touch.
Mm-hmm. And what about trust? Because at the end of the day, everything in business is based on trust. Everything is based on trust. And so you've had this experience with the back office in that first company or second company you talked about. And that was an example of where there wasn't trust. And it was difficult to build trust because they're looking over your shoulder to somebody else. So, what have you found works well to build trust in business with the team that you're leading?
I think it's to give trust, firstly. I think if you empower people and you show that you are prepared to trust their judgment and their actions, then I think that gets reciprocated. And I think also trust is easy. It is easier when you hire everybody yourself. Yeah. Right. It's much easier.
That's true.
So I think that makes a
difference. Well, think back to when you in your first company as a director, when you didn't hire everybody. In your second company, you had 20 people, and then you built it up to 230. So you must have hired the bulk of them, except for the back office team. And the back office team, I guess, how big did that ever get in that 230?
About 30.
30, right? So you probably didn't hire any of those. So the 200, you probably got to hire most of them, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of, where you did have a case where you had to build the trust with people somebody else hired, what did you find worked well for that? Because for a lot of us, that's in business, that's what happens. Hey, come to Japan, you're going to run the organization. Here's the set pieces. The team is already there. Here's the office. This is the business. Here are the clients. You run it. So you've got to come in from outside and then, quickly take that over. So what have you found works well?
I think it's just simple things. I think operating fairly, operating with authenticity. And
what does that mean, authenticity?
I think it means that people...
What does it mean in reality? I mean, we use the word, but what does it mean?
I think people feel... I think it's when people feel like they're talking to the real you. We've all met those people where 2 minutes in you're like, well, this is not you. I don't know what this facade is, but it's...
You're doing a great job there, but it's not working.
This is clearly not who you are behind that. So I think if you try and be real, and no need to have any kind of facade, I think that's key. And I think the last thing is you have to demonstrate capability. And if you can visibly demonstrate capability, then people are going to trust you more quickly. So that's always, I think, for myself and Alex, been the key. We're going to show people that we know what we're doing, we can give good advice, we're engaged in their future and what they're doing, and I think that's how you do it. I come back
to that Grant Cardone thing, because he puts out these videos where they're on the bullpen and he's listening, and he'll demonstrate capability. He's got a hostile client, and he'll just crush that client and close them, on the phone. It's incredible. And his way of doing it'll never work in Japan. It's so aggressive. Maybe America, it's fine, but that's his way of demonstrating. Are you doing something similar where you'll jump into a call, or you'll have them listen to you doing a call, or how do you demonstrate that capability apart from the theoretical level of I'm the leader here, I know what I'm doing? Yeah,
no, we do that. So I think they will listen to us on the phone to a certain degree. But I think it also comes in there is a bit, you can gain credibility through the theoretical side as well. I think it's also when you give good technical advice and that advice works, I think that also gives you the kind of credibility and trust too. And I think having a bit of patience with somebody when you're giving that advice helps to build that up, So I think it's a combination of all those things.
But this is very much an industry where it's sort of up and out, isn't it? I mean, the churn, the burn rate in the recruiting industry is just legendary.
Yeah.
So how much patience is there? Because my impression is there's not a lot of patience in this industry with people who are not performing.
I think I think we're pretty patient, actually. I think we, again, our philosophy is more that if we've hired you and you're working hard and you have a great attitude, then I think the onus is kind of on us to make it work. I think where that...
And how do you make it work?
Well, I think just before that, I think where that disappears is when the attitude and the hard work is not there. I think in
we'll
that
just
case,
assume that's a difference. I mean, no attitude, no hard work, that's an easy one.
See you later.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yeah. What was the question? Sorry.
Well, when they do have attitude and they are working hard, but they're not actually getting anywhere, when, for whatever reason, they're not making the numbers, how much is the patience extension going on there?
I think, I would consider us now, and me in particular as an individual, to be significantly more patient than I was. And I think, I remember when I had my own business in England, the first business I owned, and I always regret this mistake. And we had 3 staff right at the start, 3 new grads. 2 of them were great. 1 of them was okay. And but he had a great attitude. And me and my business partner, we're looking at the 2 we had, and they were killing it. And we're thinking, well,
need more of those.
If we swapped the average guy so we could get someone who was like these 2, we're going to kill it. So, the guy went away on holiday 2 weeks, and we made the decision while he was away. Listen, I think we're going to let him go. And he came back from holiday. I'd always remember this. And he turned up in the office. He clearly had a full reset. He looked really smart. New suit, everything. The attitude was, okay, I'm ready to improve. And we fired him.
Oh, okay. Ouch.
And because we'd made the decision. And then of course, throughout my recruitment career, obviously hired and employed a lot of people who were nowhere near as good as this guy.
Right.
And,
Whoops.
Yeah. Whoops. And I always regret that moment. And it made me think, and I know now, if we'd given him 3 or 4 months,
he would have come good.
He'd been fine. He'd have been totally fine. So I think, just as we've matured, we have learned that we can work with people. We really can. We can trust the kind of diagnosis we have as to where they're going wrong. We can improve them. And I don't think there's any issue with having many average performers in the business. I think that's okay.
Well, by dint of the Pareto principle, 80% are going to be coming up with 20% of the revenues. So they are automatically average performers.
Yeah.
And that's the majority.
And they're actually the building blocks of the business, right? If they're good for the culture and have a great attitude, if you are an average performer, then that's okay. Always want to improve people, and we have high standards, and we want people to achieve their potential and all that kind of stuff. But I think we give people time, and again, we're building a business here. We're 60 people now. We have a fairly aggressive
500, here we come.
Yeah, we have a fairly aggressive, very aggressive investors that the kind of deal is we're going to get this business to 300 people, right? And you just don't achieve that with high staff turnover in the timescales which they want. So, and we want.
And plus, it's getting harder to find people too, I think, isn't it? Because you've got a limited supply of people in this industry who want to work in this industry for a start, and there's big players, who are also competing for the same people with you. So it's not like you've got an open, canvas here to work with. You've got quite a number of limitations, I guess. Yeah,
no, it's especially the kind of caliber we want. I think we're pretty good head to head when we go up against our competitors. I think we win most of those battles when we offer the same candidate. But it's it is a limited pool, obviously. So
you talked about culture a couple of times already, but what was your mindset about culture? Because when you work as a director in a big organisation, there's a set piece culture there. When you take an organisation from 20 to 230, you're actually creating a culture. And here you are, but you've got limitations because you're not the owner. Somebody else has got a dominant culture, which is basically ninjaing the whole back office for you.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of internecine warfare going on there. But this time you've got the whole play from zero, startup. We're going to build a culture as we want it. So what's your thinking about culture and the importance of culture in an organisation?
Yeah, it's hugely important, and I think you're right. The beauty of this business now is that there is no head office setting the culture, so it gives us an opportunity actually to. I think to be very modern in how we approach work. I think to be extremely commercial in all aspects of what we do. So to create an environment where people can really succeed, and to have fun. Also, I mean, we're a business where probably not that popular with other people, but we're in the office 4 days a week. So I think if you're going to force people to come to the office, then it better be a pretty decent place to work and a decent culture.
Mm-hmm. And do you find a drop-off in the 1 day a week when they're not here?
Not really. A little bit maybe, little bit. But, you know,
is the 1 day a week Wednesday or is it Friday?
Well, actually, for us, it's performance related.
Is it? Okay.
So if the guys hit their metrics, their KPIs, they get to work from home 1 day the following week.
Okay. So it's on a weekly basis.
It's on a weekly basis, linked to your weekly KPIs, drives activity nicely.
Right.
So usually
you want a day off, or you want a day off. No, that's the totally wrong terminology. It's not a day off.
No.
By the way, if you want to work from home, you have to earn it.
Yep. You got to earn it. And it works. It works really well. So even if there is a drop off, well, if you want to work from home the following week, you better have already hit your KPIs anyway. So so that's fine.
Okay. And what about if you were going to give some advice to someone who's being sent to Japan to run an organization? They don't know Japan. They don't speak Japanese. What's your advice?
So my advice would be stick to your principles. I think a lot of people come here. I've seen it. Obviously, we have a lot of friends in the expat community, and I've seen a lot of people who immediately think that there is this unique and special approach to running a business in this market. And some things, of course, you're going to have to do differently, like we discussed already. But I think your core principles should remain the same. And I think you should, if you're going to change, that should be over a slow period, a longer period, where you slightly adjust to the market. But I think to go in immediately and think, okay, this is going to require a different approach, because people will tell you that. People in your organization will tell you that. I think is a mistake.
And for you, probably Japanese language for you probably wasn't a functionality because you're in the English language recruiting sector of the industry, so irrelevant. But do you think they should learn Japanese? Because they're not going to be in that sector. They're going to be their team is going to be probably 99% Japanese.
It's a really good question. I think it's really industry specific. So, like you said, I think a little bit at least. I think it's okay. I mean, you're going to be different anyway, and especially if you're working for an international company, the company should be set up to allow you to succeed from a language point of view. That's why they're moving you there. But I think, I think it's just basic good grace if you move to any country to try and learn some of the language. But I think from a business
perspective, how's it been going, Matt?
Shocking.
Can we break into Japanese now to see how that's been working out for you?
My Japanese, Greg, is not a patch on yours. But actually, from a sales perspective, I've got a question for you maybe actually, because you do sell in Japanese, right? And I always found that for the non-Japanese people who sell in Japanese and use Keigo, I always found that from the outside looking in, it seemed to create a hierarchy, which made it a little more difficult for them to sell. Whereas if you're doing business in English, you kind of have the upper hand. You can be more direct. What's your take on that?
I think that it depends which part of the country you're selling in. If you're selling outside of Tokyo and you speak Japanese, it's a rarity. It's a bit unique. It's a bit, they speak Japanese. That's good because I don't speak much English. Great. Yeah. Happy.
Yeah.
If it's Tokyo, it's not as probably predominant, but they just treat you as a salesperson. I'm the president, so that makes it a little bit different in terms of the hierarchical aspect of it.
No, that makes sense. Okay.
If I haven't been the president, well, I've always been the president in Japan, so I can't really speak about that. But if you're not the president, you still speak Japanese. I think that's acceptable. I think that they don't have the same expectations on your Keigo as maybe they would with the Japanese. They don't have the same expectations on your fluency, because my vocabulary in English is, I'll have to say, pretty good. Because I've been an English speaker my whole life.
You'd hope so, yeah.
I'm educated and I read a lot and I write a lot. But my vocab in Japanese is much more limited, of course. So I've got a certain inability to express things in a degree of nuance that is available to me in English. I don't have in Japanese. So it tends to be a little bit more direct. And I think Japanese, they sort of get that. And we get that too. When they speak to us in English, sometimes I'll say things that be like, whoa.
Super direct,
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, but then you get, because they're speaking a non-native language for them, so that's okay. And we adjust. And I think they adjust too. So I never felt any, I always felt as a plus, actually.
Okay.
In my experience.
Makes sense.
I may be wrong, but I've always felt as a plus.
Yeah.
Matt, what's your definition of leadership?
Oh, that's I've never really thought about it, I don't think. I think...
well, I sent you the overview and it's right there in the questions, mate, so you're supposed to be thinking about it, right? You're supposed to have a pat answer by this stage.
Should have done my homework. It's the key question to the whole
thing,
interview.
right? Exactly. This is the summation of the whole thing. Right?
Failed at the last hurdle. You know, I think for me it's... I don't know whether it's a definition, but I think for me leadership is about you're setting the vision and the heartbeat of the business. And I think you're the person that, if anything's going wrong or if things are going right, even, you're the person that people look to. Mm-hmm. If they've got a question, if they need an answer, it's you, mm-hmm. right? And I think, you know, you're the person that bears, especially when it's your own business, you bear a lot of pressure and mm-hmm. that on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. I think there's always a certain, you know, debate about how much of that pressure you let through. Mm-hmm. But I think, yeah, you should be the person that is the calm, confident guy who is or woman who's running the business and has that roadmap and mm-hmm. you know, the person that people look to. And that's what me and Alex try and be in this business.
Great. Well, all the best for it, Matt.
Thank you.
Sure it's going to go well. I'm sure we'll be at 500 before you know it.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
Keep working on it. So join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.